The late afternoon sun slanted through the towering glass facade of Marble Crest Apartments, sending prisms of light dancing across the polished marble floor of the lobby. Ethan and Maya Lewis paused just inside the revolving doors, their breath catching at the soaring atrium, the gleaming bronze railings of the mezzanine, and the graceful sweep of the grand staircase that curved like a peacock's tail toward the upper floors. Soft instrumental music floated from hidden speakers, mingling with the faint whisper of the waterfall feature nestled between potted orchids. It was the very vision they had drawn on countless napkins and sketched in late-night studio sessions. Luxurious lines, tasteful flourishes, a seamless blend of modern minimalism and classic elegance. Hand in hand, they approached the reception desk, a monolithic slab of Calacatta marble, inlaid with a delicate band of onyx. Behind it, a uniformed attendant stood ready, her name tag gleaming under the overhead sconces. Ethan retrieved the application folder he had prepared, the leather cover housing their credit reports, letters of recommendation, and the crisp checks to cover the initial costs. Maya, her chest humming with anticipation, adjusted her blazer and rested her portfolio of architectural renderings on the counter, half expecting a flicker of recognition at the familiar line work. Good afternoon, Ethan said, voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. We're here to apply for the penthouse suite. He tapped the folder, hoping the smooth gesture would convey confidence. The attendant glanced at the clock behind her, 4:17 p.m., and then to their youthful faces. She offered a polite but guarded smile. Thank you for your interest. May I have your IDs, please? Maya produced her driver's license with a quick motion, while Ethan handed over his. The attendant's eyes flicked from license to license. I'm sorry, she said softly, placing their documents aside. But this building has an age requirement. Tenants must be at least 30 years old. If you'd like, I can show you other available units in our sister properties. Time seemed to stall. Ethan's hand tightened on Maya's, their dossiers forgotten on the marble. Maya forced a polite nod. We understand, she murmured. Thank you. They turned, hearts pounding, and stepped away, the attendant already ringing up the older couple waiting behind them. Silver-haired, tailored to perfection, credit scores unquestioned. Outside in the courtyard, they paused beneath a young ginkgo tree, its leaves glowing golden in the waning light. The triumphant strains of what felt like their own dream still echoed in their minds. Every cornice they had drawn, every curve of balcony railing they had engineered to catch the sun, the way they had tucked windows into shadowed recesses for privacy. Yet here they stood, barred by a rule so arbitrary it cut deeper than any financial hurdle. Ethan exhaled, trying to steady himself. They don't know who we are, he said, voice low. They don't realize that we designed this place, from the lobby marble to the rooftop lounge. Maya closed her eyes, picturing the line of their names engraved in brass beneath the lobby model. Designed by Lewis and Partners. She imagined the plaque in the sales office, the sketches on the developer's wall, the press release in Architectural Digest. All those months of client meetings, midnight revisions, structural calculations, it had led to this very building. Maya opened her portfolio and slid out a rendering of the building's facade at sunset, the copper tones of the cladding gleaming as if alive. We can't just walk away, she said, determination igniting in her eyes. We earned the right to live here. We have to remind them who we are. Ethan nodded, hope flickering. They slipped the sketches back into the leather case and turned toward the lobby's glass doors. Behind them, the courtyard's stone benches and sculpted hedges seemed to whisper possibilities. The age requirement was a barrier they could overcome by revealing the truth of their contribution to every elegant line and luxurious detail. As they stepped back into the light, their resolve hardened. Tomorrow, they would return to the very threshold that had rejected them and demand the home they had created with their own hands. Marble Crest's golden glow would belong to them, not as young upstarts, but as the architects whose vision had shaped its every stunning corner. Ethan couldn't sleep. The memory of the receptionist's clipped apology echoed in his mind as he lay on his apartment's bare mattress, blueprints still unfurled on the floor beside him. Maya stirred next to him, eyes fluttering open. Can't rest? She whispered. He shook his head, grabbing his phone. I need to prove we belong there, he said, voice low and determined. She nodded, swinging her legs out of bed. Within minutes, they were back on the street, rain-slick sidewalks reflecting the high-rise's neon sign. They retraced their steps to Lewis and Partners' glass-walled offices downtown, the only place that held every detail of Marble Crest's birth. Their colleague Javier, still half asleep, handed them steaming mugs of coffee without question. He knew those late hours well. They spread sketches across the conference table, elevation drawings annotated in Maya's elegant script, structural calculations stamped with official seals, and the final renderings commissioned by Whitaker Developments himself. Ethan pointed to the corner of one page, their signatures in crisp black ink, certifying the precision of every beam and balcony. Maya tapped another sheet, an email exchange with the developer, praising their vision as the defining luxury statement of our portfolio. Each document added weight to their case. As dawn broke, they slipped back into the Marble Crest lobby, under the guise of early morning tenants. The brass model of the building gleamed under the chandelier's glow. Maya held her breath as Ethan sidled to the display case and softly popped the lock with a spare key he had pilfered at the firm's holiday party. Inside, the detailed scale model stood on a mirrored pedestal. At its base, the bronze plaque read, "Designed by Lewis and Partners." Ethan snapped photos from every angle, while Maya jotted notes in her journal about the developer's original vision, statement mounted on the foyer wall. Not a soul stirred. Even the receptionist, polishing her desk, failed to notice the pair methodically gathering proof. By mid-morning, armed with printed blueprints bound in crimson ribbon and high-resolution photographs of the plaque, Ethan and Maya returned to Whitaker's office. His mahogany door stood ajar. They exchanged a glance and nodded, confidence surging through their veins. They presented the evidence, letters of commission, renderings signed in their hand, the building's very title block bearing their names, to the landlord, whose expression shifted from polite annoyance to stupefied recognition. This belongs to you," he stammered, stroking his chin where he realized his folly. Ethan closed the folder gently. "We built this place," he said quietly. "We deserve the home we designed." Within hours, the lobby's age requirement sign was taken down and replaced with a simple plaque, "Welcome home, architects." Maya retrieved the small brass key to the penthouse from a surprised Whitaker, its cold metal a tangible reward for perseverance. As they stepped into the elevator, Maya leaned against Ethan and smiled. The doors closed on a future they'd shaped not just with lines on paper, but with unwavering belief in their right to call Marble Crest their own. Rain pattered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lewis and Partners' glass-walled conference room as Ethan and Maya burst through the door, dripping umbrellas at their feet. The pre-dawn light cast angular reflections across the polished table, strewn with blueprints, inked renderings, and color-corrected elevations of Marble Crest's facade. Javier, still half asleep in a coffee-stained cardigan, blinked at the sight of them. Without a word, Maya slid a thick, ribbon-bound packet across the table. "Every line here carries our stamp," she said, voice low and urgent. She tapped a page showing the structural section for the penthouse's cantilevered balcony. Her precise signature in the lower right, the company seal embossed beside it. Ethan placed a stack of high-resolution prints on top. Photos he'd snapped of the scale model in Marble Crest's lobby, the bronze plaque at its base gleaming under the chandelier, the inscription reading, "Designed by Lewis and Partners." Javier sat up, rubbing his temples. "You sneaked back there?" he murmured, half impressed, half exasperated. Maya nodded. It was the only way to capture the plaque without Mr. Whitaker's interference. She flipped the packet open to an email thread between Whitaker Developments and their firm. Glowing praise for the duo's concept, Whitaker's own words lauding their innovative structural economy and timeless elegance. Ethan leaned forward. He called our design the signature statement of the building. Yet, he won't let us live in it. They spent the next hour rehearsing their approach. What to say, how to respond if Whitaker tried to push back, which documents to present first. By the time the clock struck 8, they slipped out of the office and into the elevator that took them back to Marble Crest, the city's skyline receding behind them. The lobby was quiet at this hour, custodians polishing the marble floor by bank of elevators. Maya hugged the evidence folder to her chest as they climbed the stairs to Whitaker's office on the 10th floor. They paused outside the door, exchanged a steadying glance, and let themselves in. Whitaker sat behind his rosewood desk, reading glasses perched on his nose as he scanned the morning's financial reports. The afternoon sunlight filtered through Venetian blinds, carving stripes of gold and shadow across his desk. He looked up, surprise flickering in his pale blue eyes. "Back so soon?" he asked, voice polite but guarded. Ethan stepped forward, laying the ribboned packet on the polished surface. "We have something you need to see." Whitaker frowned as Maya opened the folder and pulled out the blueprint signed in her hand. He touched the corner of it, then raised his eyes. "That's our structural engineer's signature," he said slowly. "But you didn't draft that." Maya eased out the photos next. The lobby's display model, the gleaming plaque. "The lobby model says it in brass. Designed by Lewis and Partners," she said. "We signed every major decision. Column spacing, balcony angles, even the curve of the lobby canopy. You commissioned us. You praised us." Her voice caught for an instant with emotion. Ethan slid the printed emails across the desk so Whitaker could read his own words. "These are your quotes," he added. "You called our design a signature statement." For a long moment, Whitaker sat speechless, the weight of evidence pressing upon him like the marble pillars in his own lobby. His fingers traced the ribbon binding of the folder, as if searching for a way out. Finally, he exhaled, shoulders slumping. I assumed you were just young designers without the credentials to live here," he admitted. "I'm sorry. I made a mistake." Ethan's jaw softened. "Designing a building and wanting to live in it aren't contradictions," he said quietly. "This isn't just our workplace. It's our vision realized." Whitaker nodded and reached into his desk drawer, producing 2 gleaming brass keys on a single ring. He set them before the couple. "The penthouse is yours," he said. Welcome home." Maya felt a rush of relief and triumph as she took the keys. She looked at Whitaker and added, "Thank you for seeing the truth." As they turned to leave, Ethan paused in the doorway. "Mr. Whitaker," he said, "consider this a thank you gift. A framed rendering of the building's final elevation, signed by both of us." Whitaker managed a grateful smile as Maya handed over the rendering, its lines immaculate on heavy stock paper. When they stepped back into the lobby, the early morning light had brightened into full sun. The custodians paused their work to offer approving nods, and the receptionists returned their smiles with genuine warmth. As Ethan and Maya walked through the revolving doors, the city felt different, every street corner echoing the promise of a home they had built with their own hands. Their steps were light, hearts buoyed by the confirmation that vision, skill, and perseverance could unlock even the grandest of doors. The first rays of morning light crept across the glass railing of the penthouse terrace as Ethan turned the heavy brass key in the lock. The door swung open to reveal the grand foyer they had once only dared to imagine. Ivory marble floors veined with gold, walls clad in pale oak panels that warmed the space, and floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline like a living painting. Maya stepped in behind him, her hand trailing along the custom limestone console table they had specified. Its edges chamfered to catch the light just so. For a heartbeat, they stood in silence, letting the home they had designed with every careful calculation finally embrace them. Ethan moved forward toward the living room, where the architect's eye for proportion and balance was on full display. The sectional sofa they'd drawn in the blueprints sat exactly as they intended, low and inviting, upholstered in dove-gray linen that picked up every subtle shift of daylight. Above it, a bespoke light fixture, its slender brass arms tipped with frosted glass globes, hung like a mobile of captured stars. He reached up and flicked the hidden switch. The globes glowed softly, illuminating the gentle curves of the built-in bookcase, its shelves now laden with leather-bound volumes and art glass vases. "It's more beautiful than I ever dreamed," Maya whispered, voice thick. They crossed the room to inspect the kitchen, where the gleaming quartz countertops and hand-forged copper backsplash gleamed under the under-cabinet LED strips they had engineered into the design. Ethan ran his fingers over the matte black faucet, a prototype they'd convinced the plumber to install, then lifted the counter-depth refrigerator door to reveal the interior shelving they had nested perfectly around the HVAC ducts. "Everything fits just right," he said, marveling. Maya opened the pantry door to reveal rows of pull-out shelves that glided like silk, a solution she had devised to maximize storage in the angular alcove. She turned to Ethan with a grin. "No more awkward cans lost in the back," she said, laughter in her eyes. They carried boxes into the master bedroom next, pausing at the sliding glass doors that led to the balcony overlooking the harbor. In the soft morning breeze, the water below shimmered like liquid silver. Maya leaned out, running her hand along the frameless glass guardrail. The structural engineers had feared she was pushing the limits of anchor strength, but their calculations had held true. Behind her, Ethan placed their bedside tables just so, each one a minimalist block of walnut, with a single recessed drawer. He tested the motion-activated nightlight they had integrated into the headboard. a gentle glow that would guide sleepy feet to the bathroom without disturbing the rest of the room. Maya pressed the sensor on the wall, and the light bloomed along the floor, revealing the plush wool rug she'd specified in a deep teal hue. "We thought of everything," Ethan said, pride resonant in his voice. As the sunlight climbed, they ventured down the long hallway toward the study where they had drawn the built-in desk. Maya ran her palm over the smooth surface, recalling the countless hours she had spent at that very drawing board, tracing the room's precise proportions. She pulled out the hidden lever beneath the desktop, exposing the underdesk outlets and USB ports they had cleverly concealed behind a sliding panel. "Work will never feel like work here," she mused, envisioning their future deadlines and design sessions in this sanctuary. Their exploration was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Mr. Whitaker stood in the threshold, holding a small leather binder. His usually stern expression was tempered now by something like regret and respect. "I owe you both an apology. And more," he said, voice sincere. He handed Maya the binder, the original penthouse lease, now bearing their names in elegant script, along with a personal welcome letter and an engraved brass envelope opener. "I underestimated what this space means to its creators," he admitted. "Thank you for reminding me." Maya accepted the binder with a gracious nod, her heart warmed by his genuine contrition. Later, carrying trays of coffee and croissants, they settled at the breakfast bar they had designed to face the eastern windows. The city stirred below, taxis weaving along the avenues, pedestrians threading the sidewalks, the distant hum of life unfolding. Ethan poured 2 mugs, steam curling upward, and handed one to Maya. She raised hers in a toast to midnight revisions and sleepless nights spent perfecting every detail, to their partnership as both architects and now as inhabitants of the home they'd conceived. "To Marblecrest," she said, the name a promise realized. He clinked his mug against hers. "To us," he replied, "and to living our vision every day." As they sipped their coffee, unpacking the first framed photographs of family and friends they would soon hang on the walls, the penthouse felt less like a building and more like a living space, a testament to their expertise, endurance, and unwavering belief in their dream. In that morning light, every engineered joint, every selected material, every structural calculation sang with the harmony of purpose and place, and Ethan and Maya knew they had truly come home. The first morning in their new penthouse dawned softly, the city below still hushed beneath a pale rose sky. Ethan pressed his palm against the cool glass of the living room window and felt a thrill of triumph ripple through him. Here, at last, was the view they had drawn in every sketch and rendering. The rooftop gardens glimmering far above traffic, the distant river winding like liquid silver, the mountaintops edging the horizon. Maya joined him with 2 steaming mugs of coffee in hand, the rich aroma swirling with vanilla and dark chocolate notes. She draped a soft cashmere throw over his shoulders and smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunrise. "That we earned this," she whispered, and he nodded, voice thick with emotion. They spent the morning unpacking boxes in a deliberate ritual, each item carrying its own memory. A brass globe lamp, gifted by Javier after their last firm celebration, took its place on the walnut console, its warm glow beckoning on long nights. Maya lifted a framed photograph of their first joint project, the skeletal steel model of a community center, and placed it on the mantel behind the sectional sofa. Ethan tucked hand-drawn floor plans into sleek acrylic frames and lined them along the hallway, the blue-inked lines now preserved as art. Every piece, books collected over late study sessions, small sculptures from favorite travels, found its niche in the spaces they had planned, from the recessed shelving in the study to the hidden niches behind the kitchen pantry door. As afternoon light slanted through the windows, they paused to admire their work. The kitchen island, its waterfall edge of honed marble, bore a platter of fresh pastries and fruit, an ode to mornings they had only dreamed of. Ethan cued their favorite jazz playlist, and they danced barefoot across the pale oak floors, laughter trailing in the echoing hall, celebrating freedom at last. Then a knock sounded at the door. Ethan opened it to find Mr. Whitaker standing on the threshold, carrying a small wooden crate bound with twine. His face was lined with humility and a flicker of excitement. Inside the crate were flowering succulents, aloe, echeveria, and jade, each labeled in delicate calligraphy. "For your balcony," Mr. Whitaker said, voice warmer than they had ever heard it. Maya ushered him in, offering coffee and showing him their framed plans. He studied the drawings with genuine interest, tracing his finger along the exact contours of the terrace railing he had once thought too daring. He lingered by the sliding doors, where Ethan had installed the glass guardrail they had engineered to meet building codes while preserving the open view. I underestimated your vision, he admitted, voice low. This penthouse isn't just a space, it's a masterpiece. He placed the crate on the quartz countertop, brushing a leaf of jade with a quiet reverence. Thank you for forgiving my mistake, he added. Before he left, he paused in the foyer, removing his cap. You've made Marble Crest stronger, he said, offering them each the succulents. And may they remind you that beauty grows even in unlikely places. Once the door closed, Maya placed the crate in the sunlit core of the balcony. The plants seemed to unfold toward the light, their rosettes like miniature suns. She arranged a low bistro table and 2 chairs beside them, envisioning evenings of wine and conversation under the stars. Ethan tightened the last turn of the jarrahwood picket on the side planters they had crafted for herbs and flowers, rosemary, thyme, lavender, and stepped back to admire the living tapestry taking shape. That evening, they hosted their first gathering. Close friends from the firm, neighbors from the 7th floor they'd met in passing, Javier and his wife Lila bearing bottles of champagne. As city lights winked on, the penthouse came alive with chatter and clinking glasses. Guests clustered around the balcony's edge, marveling at the panorama, while others sank into the plush sofas, marveling at the seamless joinery of the cabinetry. Conversations drifted from architectural anecdotes to promises of future collaborations, each voice weaving into the tapestry of their new community. Maya circulated with a tray of canapes, goat cheese crostini, spiced lamb skewers, heirloom tomato bruschetta, her joy infectious. Later, as the last guest drifted out under the glittering city, Ethan and Maya stood alone on the terrace, the night air soft and alive with distant sirens and human hum. Ethan slipped an arm around Maya's waist. We dreamed of this, he said, voice husky, and now we're living it. She leaned into him, forehead resting against his chest. Below, Marble Crest glowed like a beacon, every light in the tower a testament to their labor and perseverance. In the quiet that followed, they spoke of new ambitions, designing their own firm's first standalone building, mentoring young architects facing barriers, planting a community garden by the rooftop succulents. The penthouse, they realized, was not an end but a beginning, a horizon for their next chapter. As the moon sailed high above the skyline, they turned back to the door and flicked off the balcony lights, carrying with them the promise that every dream worth designing is one worth claiming, and then sharing with the world.